Welcome back, and today we're going to be breaking down Paradise Season 2, Episode 7, The Final Countdown, and I am here to tell you it felt like a final countdown because I honestly did not want the episode to end at all. Before I go any further, if you're not caught up on the episode yet, please hit pause and go ahead and watch the episode, then come back and watch this because I am going to spoil probably most of the episode because I am very excited to talk about it, and I'm sorry about that, but we're about to get into it. We are right at the doorstep of the season finale, and the tension is at an all-time high now. And today we're going to talk about Gary's last stand, the absolute death trap that the bunker has become, the shocking death of a major character, and that massive mind-bending twist of revealing who Link actually is. This was the perfect episode right before a finale. We have everything that we've been tracking all season long right on a collision course for each other. The Atlanta storyline practically wraps up one of its biggest conflicts, while the Colorado storyline has descended into absolute chaos. The pacing in this episode, and I'm pretty sure it's going to carry over into the next episode, was absolutely relentless. And the show has officially crossed that line of dystopian survival thriller into the whole multiverse level sci-fi. So let's start with Atlanta. There we see that Xavier has survived the bomb that Gary rigged to blow up early. He goes full Jason Bourne on a convoy and he reunites with Terry. And just like I thought, Terry was not being held hostage by Dakota and the train convoy. They're friendly, they helped her out, and they're trying to get to Colorado. But Gary did do one thing, and he used the distraction of the explosion to kidnap Bean. And a long story short, Xavier and Terry team up, they go to the post office eventually. And along the way, they're talking about all their stories and things that have happened to them on the in-between time about how she got Bean, and he has a long story to tell her, and that's about Annie's baby. But they get to the post office, and there's a standoff between Terry and Gary inside the post office, and he tells her how sorry he is and how he messed up, and he just didn't want to let go, and blah, 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 and all that bullshit like that. Gary's sorry, we're supposed to feel bad for him, even though he killed somebody. But Terry gets out of the post office, and her, Bean, the baby, and Xavier board the train, and they're on their way to Colorado. There was nothing really surprising about the way the Atlanta storyline closed out. I've been saying this for the last couple of episodes that it was probably going to close out similar to that. We all knew that they were going to be boarding that train. That was the fastest way to get them to Colorado. So there was no other purpose for that train to be there outside of that. It was nice to get a little backstory, and the backstory was really just to kind of place us where Terry was, and Garrett just happened to be the bad guy in her story. But all in all, I'm glad that they closed out the Atlanta storyline and that we're headed towards Colorado now, because the Atlanta storyline was fun, but I was really ready to get to the main storyline. Now let's jump to the bunker where all the crazy shenanigans is actually going down. Gabriella spends the entire episode terrified that Jane is going to sneak up on her and kill her at some point. But lo and behold, when Jane finally does get the green light to go ahead and do that, she sneaks up on her and thinks she's in the shower, but Gabriella sneaks up behind Jane and actually kills Jane first. And that is a massive twist right there, especially after they focused so hard on Jane the last episode, telling us that she was this killer of killers and that she could be stopped when the time comes. And I doubt that was the time that was supposed to come. And I'm still not sure what message was supposed to be delivered, but I'm sure it's not Gabriella is going to kill Jane. But I honestly don't think Jane is supposed to go out like that. Why would Jane go out so weak? I honestly think that there may be a little bit more at play here. And that's where I kind of get into this whole multiverse of everything, because there was one universe where Jane was supposed to be this killer of killers, and I'm sure that Jane would not have got taken out so easily by Gabriella. So I think that there may be another Jane out there somewhere. And that kind of takes me to the whole flashback that they had with Cal when he kind of predicted what was going to happen with the bunker if a bunch of bad things happen all at the same time. You know, he's asking all these crazy questions, but in theory, he's really drawn up in his mind the worst things that could happen, which is not a bad thing to do when you're about to spend a whole bunch of time underground or inside of a mountain. But he does ask Sinatra straight up, which plays into the storyline, hey, what happens if the bunker loses oxygen and faces a siege at the same time? That could have been a premonition, or maybe not. Maybe he was just theorizing. I'm not sure, but obviously that's what's getting ready to happen. But he asked her this question straight up, and she just assures him we have everything taken care of. Fast forward to the present, and now you have Anders, Robinson, and Jeremy getting ready to sabotage the very oxygen supply that they were just speaking of in the flashback. And coincidentally, now Peter and the rest of the cabinet, without Sinatra because they can't find her because she's doing her own thing right now, they initiate a total lockdown of the bunker, and when you know it, It causes a circuit breaker failure, and now the bunker is messed up. Now everyone is trapped inside with no oxygen and no way out. You have Presley and Hadley stuck in the elevator. So yeah, the bunker is basically a death trap now. And if that wasn't enough, here's the biggest what the fuck moment of the entire season, because Link finally meets up with Sinatra on Air Force One of all places. You know, he drops his whole Star Wars, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker reference. And that should have told us something right there, because that's a father-son reference. And, you know, he bullshits with her for a minute. And, you know, when they finally sit down and talk about what they're really there for, he asks her for one of the nuclear reactors, knowing that he didn't want that in the first place. And she calls his bluff on that, of course. And then he just asks her straight up, give me Alex. And of course, she's not going to do that. So she ends that meeting abruptly. And on their way out the bunker, Geiger calls Link by his real name, and it just happens to be Dylan. And earlier in the episode, Sinatra and her husband were speaking about their son, whose name happened to be Dylan, how he would have been 26 on this very day. And just so happens that Link's name is Dylan, and he just happens to be 26 and born on that very day. So, ta-da! Link is Dylan, who just happens to be Sinatra's son. But Sinatra's son in this timeline died. So what timeline is this Dylan, aka Link, from? And I'm not sure what timeline he's from, but he's obviously from an alternate timeline where that Dylan didn't die. And these timelines are starting to cross over in ways, because we see everybody now starting to have the nosebleed. Link has the nosebleed. Sinatra has the nosebleed when they were close to each other. We saw Xavier on the train wake up with a nosebleed. So I'm starting to think that the reason that they're having these nosebleeds are because they're interacting with their alternate realities. So that may be a crazy theory, but that's the best one that I have. And that kind of leads me to one of my predictions. While the entire bunker is shutting down, Sinatra just happens to be heading to Alex. And we find out as she gets there and she walks down this hallway and everything like that, that Alex is something, and she speaks to it, but we don't know what it is, but it has a red light on it. So I'm assuming that Alex is probably a supercomputer of some sorts, or maybe Alex is something like Gordon from the Power Rangers, where it's a face in a globe or something like that. But it clearly can do something with time, or maybe she can split alternate realities, because we know she's a she because Sinatra referred to her as she. But now I'm starting to think that Alex may be some type of navigational guide to travel through different multiverses or different alternate universes. And maybe she's trying to take everybody to an alternate universe or a different multiverse where this destruction of the earth didn't happen. But the prediction that I am leaning more so towards is Link is clearly from a different reality or timeline. And we know that because that's Sinatra's son, and he clearly died in the timeline that Sinatra was in, and the same one that Xavier left. Remember when Xavier flew through that bad storm? I'm starting to think now that that storm maybe wasn't a storm at all. Maybe that was Sinatra playing with Alex, and maybe at that very moment she opened up some type of wormhole, and the universe that he traveled to, where the family that he has now is a different alternate reality. And while he may be meeting up with Link and the crew, is he meeting up with Link and the crew in the same timeline that Sinatra is in, or are two timelines merging into one another, which is why everybody's having the nosebleeds? I'm thinking that's more likely. Maybe they're just dealing with two timelines, because trying to do 3, 4, 5 different universes and different timelines like that outside of just speaking on it would probably be a lot for a TV show. So let's just say they have two timelines. Xavier probably crossed into a different one, and now these timelines are getting ready to collide, and everybody's having nosebleeds, and that's my theory. This episode was great. It paid off for Gary. I'm glad we got him out of the way, and he actually didn't die like I thought he was. It gave us a claustrophobic nightmare everywhere, because this entire episode felt really tight, really claustrophobic, and like we were really leading to something big and crazy. I honestly cannot wait till next week when the season finale drops, because I'll be right there when it does. And right after that episode drops, I'm going to drop a review, and we will be talking about how this season ends and where we're going to be going in season 3. So tell me, what did you guys think about the massive reveal? Did it shock you how it shocked me? Because it left me on the edge of my seat, and I honestly just had to record this episode as soon as the episode ended, because I was that excited and I was that ready to talk about everything that happened in this episode. Don't forget, we're pushing hard for 500. Of course, we want more followers than that, or subscribers, but We have to start somewhere. So 500 is where we're starting. And of course, we hope we grow the community bigger than that. But keep coming back for more. Let me know what you think about the episode and where you think we're going. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.